Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of We Hunt Together. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, the fact of the matter is we're picking up with last week's episode and everything. And obviously we have Baba and Freddie going to like a place that's owned by, Janet or whatever. So it's like, oh, we're going to bury the body here. And once again, it's just that thing of like, man, Baba, like, he seems like he's just going with the flow of things and stuff like that. But then it's like he sees a version of himself as a child. So it's and you see that constantly throughout the entire, episode. So I'm thinking it, because at first I was thinking like, okay, so this is him looking back on who he was back then, like what he did when he was younger, kind of the terrible things to people he might, killed and stuff like that. But obviously it ends up being more than that because, we learn from Baba later on. Well, it's a representation of like, that's who he became. He's trying to get back to being a little boy he was before, not that particular little boy, the little boy he was before his family was taken everything. Regardless. What I thought was interesting, though, is Baba, like, obviously, he has a bigger reservation about this whole situation with the other guy, because it's like, he's innocent. At least in his mind, it's like, Matt was a terrible dude, so he had to go. So, it's, he justified it, so, he was like, oh, Simon wasn't a good guy. He was going to hurt Freddie, he was going to, so it's just like, he's not a good guy. I saved her, already seen that he's not a good guy. So, there's all of that. And so, when it's all said and done, though, he has reservations about doing this, killing another innocent person, because he's killed so many innocent people before. Like, it breaks his heart to do, but, it's like, this guy was an innocent person, but, Freddie's like, wrong place, wrong time. And she's like, yeah, but the fact of the matter is, I forgot all that she was saying, but everything that she was saying, you could look on Baba's face. It's like he knows it's a little wrong, but for whatever reason, like, he doesn't say anything. Like, he can tell, like, the way Freddie's handling things. It's like, you're kind of messed up, but I think he just doesn't want to, because he doesn't want to say or do anything that could make her want to leave him, because he feels better with her. It's like, he even says it. It's like, oh, you're the first person I've had sex with in like 6 years. She's like, Jesus, dude. And it's like, they're in love and everything. He feels something probably for the first time in a long time. He's connected with someone for the first time in a long time. So he doesn't want to, after having been alone for so long, being haunted by his past, like someone that accepts him for himself, scars and all, like, he wants that to work out. He feels like he needs Freddie. He needs this relationship, But it turns out, home dude that's in the car, which we find out later on his name is Darren. Darren's not dead. Darren just got knocked out, which is even more effed up because, like, Freddie, like, wrote in the dust of the car, she wrote R.I.P. It's like, once again, further and further example of just kind of how messed up Freddie is. But obviously, like, Baba went to, like, dig the hole for the body and everything. But when they came back to move the body, Darren, got out, but, like, Freddie ends up knocking him out. So it's like, all right, what we're going to do, he's literally seen our faces. He literally saw us hang Matt. So we can't let him live. So it's like, what are we going to do about that whole situation? So it's like, what are we going to do? So Baba doesn't want to kill him because it's like, this is my chance. He's like, this is a sign. She's like, no, us being together, that's the sign. Like, we're in love. I've met you 8 days ago, and I already love you more than anything and anyone or anything I've ever known in my entire life. So that's the sign. But obviously Baba's like, no, I need to make up for my past. I need to make sure that this man lives, Obviously Freddie's kind of super against that, though, because obviously for Freddie's coming at this from the perspective of self-preservation, So she doesn't like Baba being like this, even at one point basically telling him, because she was like, kind of remind him, it's like, oh, this what's between us is important and stuff like that, and he doesn't really respond, and she's like, well, fuck you then, and just kind of, she's like, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it myself, and Baba's like, I know you, Freddie, you're not going to do it, and I kind of had a feeling she wasn't going to do it either, just because it's like, because it's one thing to kind of, because she never gets her hands dirty herself. Every step of the way, it's been someone else. Yeah, she kissed Baba's hand, but the person who put the knife inside of Simon, 100% Baba. The person that beat Simon up at first, that was Baba. The person, so when it's all said and done, like, I know how Freddie's going to skirt this situation. She's going to skirt it by being like, oh, Baba did everything. It wasn't me. I felt so threatened. It's going to turn into that nasty type of situation. It's a Bonnie and Clyde situation without, like, it being like, we both recognize we're terrible people and we're so in love, let's do this together. It's like, Baba's a means to an end. It says it's fun for her. It's like, I don't think she actually loves him. I think maybe it's like, oh, you're kind of fun. You make this interesting. So once again, he's just a means to an end. If you prove not to be useful anymore, but I'm gonna keep you around a while. It seemed like he like I said, he's more of like a blunt instrument for her rather than like someone that she cares about. Because I think she's kind of a bit of a sociopath. I don't think she feels anything, And there's things throughout the episode that kind of reinforce like just her demeanor and her behavior, just like kind of reinforces like something must have happened to her when she was younger, where she just kind of a bit of a psychopath, or like sociopath and psychopath. Once again, I always get confused on what like the difference between the two is, because there is actually a difference. But the fact of the matter is, it's just she doesn't seem like she really feels anything. But she couldn't kill Darren, so she storms off. We had the whole thing with Lola and Jackson, because there's the whole thing about like, oh, like you're because calling Freddie because like, oh, we got a couple more questions for you, but then it's like, oh, like he's like, oh, she's like, yeah, you got any plans? And he's like, well, I got to check with my wife and everything, and she's like, oh, you're underneath her thumb. It's like, no, he's like, if anything, we're under each other's thumb, and he a Sheeran or something like that, and then she's like, and Lola's like, what's Ed Sheeran got to do with this? And he's like, what? No, not Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran, and she was like, I don't know. What do you think? Why do you think I know? I don't know. She got super embarrassed about it because she thought he said Ed Sheeran. I think that's such an adorable aspect of her character, because she's so awkward, and I think it's like it's like, how do I compute? How do I human? I think it's a little harder for her once again, and I'm laughing because it's like I'm sympathetic, because like I feel like I'm like that. How do human good? I've always thought about that. Like, I want that to be like a shirt or something like that. That's because, regardless, the fact of the matter is, I thought that was so interesting in the grand scheme of things. And then he is like, oh, I forgot what he was saying. Like, oh, basically the dude who he was referencing, it's like, oh, he also painted like the infinite stairs. She's like, don't bring up infinite stairs when I have to be the one waiting for you, and they have a laugh at it. I'm like, I love like the rapport. It's so good. Obviously, they go to question, Larry, Freddie's boss. They had also questioned home dude that was with Matt. So it doesn't, because the way he talked about it, it's like him and Matt weren't exclusive. So it is a thing. I'm like, okay, because it seemed like they were a thing, but it's like, he's like, we've been together for the past 18 months. So he's like, I didn't think we were exclusive. But it's like also like nothing in Simon's stuff suggested he was gay. So that's why it's like, for it to be like kind of like, well, because later on, like Freddie had kind of twisted it to make it seem like, oh, they had a relationship and everything like that. Because I also think it's interesting because, like, Lola and Jackson are getting a better picture of Freddie. It's like, oh, Freddie doesn't show up to work whenever she kind of bounces whenever she wants to, but it's like, Larry keeps her around because she's really good at what she does. It's like, oh yeah, people just kind of like her and everything like that, so it's just kind of like, that kind of gives you an idea of like, she's got a silver tongue, like she's very good at like being really smooth with people, kind of luring people in, I guess like the comparison I guess you could almost make is kind of like I think she kind of plays the role of, I don't know, femme fatale might not necessarily be the right word. Maybe Black Widow might be closer to the term, but even that's kind of like, isn't that specifically married when you kill your husbands? She's Black Widow and femme fatale-esque, I guess would be kind of the more apt description, but regardless. But the fact of the matter is, obviously they're getting Dom to look into Freddy's life, but obviously it comes up of like, yeah, there's nothing about Freddy for like the past, it goes back to 2013. She has no other social media, so it's kind of like, which obviously brings up the question of like, well, she has no other social medias. That's a little interesting considering how young she is, because everyone's kind of on like a lot of social media platforms, especially younger people. So it is kind of a little interesting that she doesn't have one, but regardless, the moment Freddie found out, like, oh crap, they wouldn't talk to me about Matt, Freddie calls up Jackson, and it's like, oh guys, let's have a sit down. She's like, oh, you're here because I lied about Matt. It's like, okay, you're just being blunt about that, because she's like, okay, so because she's trying to figure out how much they know. So she's like, all right, they're calling me like this, they must know about, like, all right. So it's like, so she's still lying and manipulating it, being like, oh yeah, I think Simon and Matt were, in a relationship. It's like, this and that. So she's like, I don't really know Simon. I just kind of spent some like drunk nights with him. That's about it. And the fact of the matter is, she's kind of dodging every question and stuff like that. It's like, what were you doing? It's like, why didn't you show up to work for on Sunday? She's like, because I didn't want to. Why? Why do you need to know why? She's like, if you're questioning me, shouldn't we be at the station? It's like, no, you're more of an eyewitness. And it's like, we figured this would be more comfortable. Like, she's in complete, and utter control. And Lola kind of questioned. Lola had said something, and she remarks about like, oh yeah, there's just, there's just a darkness in people. You just kind of feel it. And then Lola's like, she was smirking a little bit, and then it kind of disappeared because I think like Freddie might kind of see that same darkness, feel that same darkness in Lola because she could feel it in Baba. I think, But I think she feels it a little bit in Lola, but maybe Lola was like, are you looking into me? Like, are you staring into my soul? Are you seeing that darkness in me while you're saying that? But obviously it's like, oh yeah, like I need to also like, oh, you need my fingerprints? So she dips her hands in Lola's cup and then puts her, like, it's like foam or whatever. So she like puts her fingers on the napkin. It's like, there you go. All right, bye. And it's like, okay. I was like, for one, that's such a dick move. Okay. And then at the same time, obviously Baba is taking care of Darren because Darren's like, okay, he's feeding Darren and everything. Darren's like, okay, my name's Darren. Who are you? What's your name? Where are you from? He's like, you don't have to, tell me. But he's like, I get the feeling like you're a good man, which obviously, that probably hits Baba a little differently because it's like, I want to be a good person. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not a good person. I'm surprised he didn't throw that in Darren's face. Like, what makes you think I'm a good person? I've done a lot of terrible shit. Not just like the whole situation with, Matt, once again, in his mind, Simon's douchebag needed to go. At least he can justify for being like, oh, Simon was a terrible guy. Matt was a terrible guy, which we also found out, Freddie's a liar. Not too surprised, but it's like, oh, the Paula thing, because we meet Paula, because she's like, oh, Matt made Paula disappear. So yeah, Matt might be threatening, but at the very least, it doesn't seem like he makes people disappear or hurt people. So it's like Paula, because of the rotten tooth and everything, it's like, nope, she's still alive and everything. So it's like, oh, Freddie lied about that. Because Darren also says like, oh, my boy, he has leukemia, which Freddie was like, if he really had a son, like, if you really had this family he's really concerned about, he's lying to you, which immediately I was like, even if he is lying, it's like, it takes a liar to recognize a liar, right? But it's like, she's like, why was he out in the woods pissed drunk if that was the case? I was like, well, maybe truth be told, maybe that's his way of dealing with things. But the moment Baba got the picture and the dress, I was like, okay, Baba, you're gonna go check on the family itself, aren't you? To verify his story. That's what I was wondering about, but it turned out not to be the case because later on Freddie's like, the cops, they came to see me, Baba. I just needed to clear my head. But I don't know what they know. I didn't tell them anything, but I got flowers, went to the hospital. He's lying. I'm like, you're lying. I was like, Baba, confirm it yourself. But he never did. Like, I'm skipping around a little bit, but he never confirmed it himself. I think later on in the show, because like he has a picture, he has Darren's address. Eventually, he's going to go back. Because he's gonna probably go check on Darren to see like, okay. Because in the grand scheme of things, like, he eventually lets Darren go because, like, obviously he had that nightmare where it's like basically he thought Darren fell into the hole, like, because he was chasing after Darren because Darren got out. But then he sees, like, Darren on one side and then he sees his younger self holding out his hand, like, trying to help him out of it. So it's like, okay. So I think that's supposed to be representing, like, the path of, like, hey, this is the path to redemption. You don't have to go down this route. So that's potentially how things, could be in, the grand scheme of things. But the fact of the matter is, Baba, decided, it's like, okay, I'm going to let you go. This is your family. This hole will not just be for you. It will be for your family if you say anything to the cops. Say you got mugged and beat up and you woke up in the woods near your home. Go. Don't say anything again. And he bounces and it's like, oh shit. I was like, okay. I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. The moment he got towards the highway, I'm like, is he going to get, because I was immediately like, oh my God, like, I was thinking like, Freddie's going to show up and she's going to run him over. I thought that was going to be, I was kind of either expecting that or for her to just pop out of nowhere with a gun and shoot him or something like that. I don't know. I had a feeling like Freddie was going to end up being the one to end up putting him down regardless. But the fact of the matter is, I was like, oh, the moment he gets to the road, like, I thought Freddie was going to see him and then run him over. It's like, oh no, he gets hit by a truck and I'm like, oh. And I was like, are we going to find out that Freddie's driving that truck? It can't be, but it's like, oh no, like the truck just like drives away after pause for a moment because like it was a hit and run because whoever it was doesn't want to acknowledge it. Shit. And they just bounce. But the fact is, it just drove away kind of slowly, but I think it's like, if you speed away, it's going to draw too much attention type of situation. So that's a loose end that's going to obviously circle back around at some point to the case. I don't know how that's going to fit back in, but eventually that's going to be their tie to this whole, situation. But then, like, Freddy shows up and she's like, huh. She's looking at him, she kicks his body because it's like, oh, gotta make sure he's dead this time. And it's like, and he's bleeding, and she's got like a smirk on her face, like, all right, you're dead. And she goes to Bob, Bob's like, are you gonna tell him? Are you gonna tell him? And it's like, no, she doesn't. I was like, I think this has to be at the very least line number 3. Maybe line number 4, because it still goes back to the whole thing. It's still a complicated thing because we don't know about the whole Simon thing, like whether there was validity. Because Simon was saying like, oh, the whole thing that was going down in the alleyway, that was like what she was all about, like her saying no and stuff like that. It was a kind of like a rough like role play type of thing. We still don't know if that's true or not. It brings it in because I don't want to be that dude that's like, oh, like, calling her a liar in that regard, because maybe it really was that situation of like that's not what she wanted. But I think Simon might have been telling the truth, and the moment Baba stepped in, she was like, oh, no, it's okay, Baba, like you can stop. It's like because the lies just spiral from there over and over again, and it's just like it's kind of all a game to her. There's even that thing we saw when she was younger. There was someone named, Lily, and then someone named Francesca. So I'm assuming Francesca was her friend, like that friend, because it's like, where'd you get that ring from? And she's like, oh, I got it from someone, I guess like a teacher or whatever. It's like, maybe like Lily was kind of, because we find out later on Freddy's real name is Lily. So I'm assuming like she got jealous of like, wait, you got that? I want it. Like, type of thing of like, she takes what she wants. Because later on they're like, she was in juvie from like 12 to like 17 for GBH, which I'm not sure what that is. I probably should have looked it up, but I kind of don't want to because I just don't want to like, because maybe it'll come up later on about like what that is. Someone might hit me up in the comments and be like, oh, it means this, like I said, or maybe I will eventually go like, oh, I'll finally look it up and be curious about it myself. But regardless, my whole point is I think Freddy just is the type of person who ends up kind of just taking what she wants. Like I said, I think this is all just like a game to her, and like she's just kind of having fun, but she's making Baba feel bad. It's like, how can I trust you again? Once again, it's like, oh, you let him go. I was wondering, like I said, if she was going to say anything or not, and she's just lets Baba kind of. He's like, I want to get back to that little boy I was before. It's like for him, it's like this has to mean something. It still can, And she's just like, okay, and the way she's hugging him, because obviously he cares about her, but then like the look on her face is very just kind of like I have to fake it, So I think that's so interesting. And the moment like later on when it's like, oh, I'm asleep, I didn't really sleep that night. Part of me is like, you're going to be sleeping there, and you're not going to like you're going to drive away. Either she's going to go a different way, or she's going to drive by the body, but you're not going to see it because you're laying down asleep. I was like, dude, this is crazy. At the same time, like their boss, Jackson and Lola's boss, doesn't want them to continue this case because it's like, yeah, like Fred, because obviously they found out that Freddy, because they found out about the premium membership thing, because obviously it is kind of an escort service type of situation, but that, like, obviously Freddy didn't go too much into detail, and neither did Paula about what really goes down with the straight to third date situation. But regardless of it all, the fact of the matter is, like I said, Lola and Jackson's boss feel like even with the whole motive of Freddie owed Matt $10,000 or pounds rather, she wants this case to be kind of done with, because it's like, you guys don't have anything really like concrete enough to really kind of say that this was on Freddie. Plus, who put Matt up in a tree? There's no way a woman of her size could have done it. So it's like, obviously Lola's frustrated because obviously she knows Freddie's behind this, and obviously Jackson kind of feels it too. But it's a thing of like, there's nothing we have concrete enough to kind of keep this case going. So, but it's not till later on when Jackson is at home and his wife is there, and she's made 2 cups of tea, and he brings up the point I brought up last episode. She already had 2 cups ready that were already sitting there, so it's like, wait, what's that? So seeing that with the green tea and everything, it clicked in his head. So I was like, okay, so it took him a while, but he figured it out. He remembered it. So he was trying to call Lola and everything. But in the grand scheme of things, like obviously Lola was kind of all getting high. I even love that whole thing of her being like, Jackson, and she's trying to, and she looks at herself and she's like, you look mint. She's trying to make herself and trying to hide like, the fact that she was getting high and everything. Because there's even that thing in her car, like when Jackson was trying to write down her address, she was like, please don't go rummaging through my stuff. Part of me was like, that's probably her drugs. I thought Jackson was actually going to come across it and see it out in the open, but it's like, I think that's what that was. Maybe not, or maybe it was something else entirely different. Whatever the case may be. What was interesting though is because Lola kind of has her bit of a, like, her case board where she's got everything kind of mapped out, and then like near that picture of Freddy, she kind of leans her head against it, because it's like, either it's like she's just like, I know there's something here. I'm curious, like, what that could represent, whether that is just simply like, hey, like, I know there's something more to this, or it's just kind of like that like, oh, I gotta get that next high was kind of kicking in. Whatever the case may be, Jackson pointing out what he knows, it's like, oh shit. And then it's like, because it's a thing of, if you knew that we were coming up, you knew the two of us were coming up, why not have 3 cups prepared already? That meant 1 for yourself and the 2 of us. Like, she knew we were coming up, sure, but those cups were already there, meaning she was preparing the tea for someone else. And it's like, Lola's like, someone was already there, someone was hiding. Like, if you heard what this was all about, why wouldn't you come out unless you were hiding on purpose? So it's like, they now know she wasn't working alone. That's how she got Matt in the tree and everything. Obviously, they're burning the car because they have to go their separate ways. It's like, we can't be seen in London together, but now it's like everything's kind of falling into place in certain regards. Obviously, once again, that hit and run situation with Darren, because sadly, like I said, Baba thinks Darren went back home to his family, but I think when it's all said and done, he's going to go back home. He's going to go back to find Darren's home, and he's going to find out, wait, not only is his son actually sick and has leukemia, it's like, yeah, I haven't seen my husband. It's like, wait, Darren never came back home. Wait, he was telling the truth, so that means Freddy was the one, so that might be later on in the season or series where it's kind of like, I'm about to say Lola, Freddy's lies start unraveling at that point for at least Baba, because they're kind of unraveling for everyone else but Baba, because I think he's unwilling to really see her for who she kind of really is. But it's going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this takes us going forward with this next step. Now that, like I said, Lola and Jackson are aware she's not alone. They don't know about Baba, but they exist. They at least know there's a mystery man. They just don't know who he is. So how this whole situation is going to play out, what Freddy's going to do, trying to keep a low profile, especially with the cops looking at her. Like I said, I think when it's all said and done, she's going to make it seem like she's the victim in this situation. She was scared, like she's, going to manipulate Baba down this route. But because eventually it might come out that he knows and he might go after her, and then Freddy might be able to twist this situation in her favor if Baba came after her because of everything. Like I said, this is me thinking way, way, way in advance. We'll ultimately have to wait and see how it all ultimately ends up playing out. But till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.